Hey, we're saints. Welcome to our Crucifixional live stream. Father Chris here. Glad to have you beautiful people with us on Valentine's Day. Happy Valentine's Day. I hope you have a beautiful day of love with all of your loved ones, your spouse, your significant other, your children, your parents. Just have a glorious day. I want to wish a quick shout out to my beautiful bride, Allison. As you can tell, she is stunning and gorgeous on the inside as well as the outside. We've been married for 25 years is a long time for anyone to have to deal with me. God bless and keep her. Making that marriage last is, for me, has been a blessing and really easy because she is amazing. Making that marriage last for her was probably a little bit more work because she had to deal with, things. And to do that, to make those relationships work, there are kind of choices that the world is giving us. One of them is a really self-centered, self-focused way, right? Like it's that I need to get what's mine and preserve myself and make sure that I'm whole and self-care and all the things that we hear repeatedly out there in the world's environment. The problem that I find with all that kind of stuff is that it doesn't all seem to be working, right? Like I know that we want to take care of ourselves, right? Even Jesus says, "Physician, heal thyself," right? He's telling us if you want to help serve others, you first got to be in good shape yourself. So absolutely, we need to take care of ourselves. But when the focus becomes my will, it seems to me that it doesn't always work. I mean, and I'm not being trite. The statistical data out there shows us two very scary things. One is that 50% of marriages in the United States end in divorce. That's horrifyingly scary for both the husband and the wife and children, if any. The other statistic is that marriages are down. I mean, divorces are not going beyond that 50% because marriages are down, meaning people are not getting married. They're just either cohabitating or not getting into relationships or whatever it may be. And all of this seems to me to be a byproduct of the self-focus. And the question then is there an alternative route? Is there another way? Well, indeed there is. We call it the way of the warrior saint. But it is, as in all things, the way of the cross. So listen, this is awesome. In Ephesians chapter 5, which in the Orthodox Church is read during every wedding sacrament, it talks about husbands and wives and the way that they should interact and behave with one another. Starting in verse 22, you hear things like, husbands and wives, be subject to one another out of submission to Christ, out of love for the Lord. Wives, submit to your husbands, for the husband is the head of the wife. And then it goes on and it says something powerful. Husbands, love your wives as Christ loved the church. Now, this is definitely, to understand that text, what St. Paul is talking about in Ephesians 5 is Christ and the church. But he uses the metaphor of husbands and wives to make his point, to clarify, to further explain what he's trying to talk about. And he says that husbands, you have to love your bride just the way that Christ loved the church. And sometimes people think of that as, like, well, what? I mean, a woman doesn't have to love, and all the husband has to do is just love her. But really, it's important that we get the second part of that verse. Husbands, love your wives as Christ loved the church. And so you might say, okay, well, that makes a little more sense. But wait, Father Chris, how did Christ love the church? He gave himself for it, right? If you keep reading in Ephesians 5, you will see, husbands, love your wives as Christ loved the church and gave himself for it. Christ was willing to sacrifice himself, which is totally in contradistinction to what you see in the world with this self-propagation. And yet, because Christ was willing to do that, the great monster of death was crushed, right? And he ends in the empty tomb. And so in the context of our marriages, now I'm speaking to all of us, not just the fellas, but husbands and wives, and those who are, entering into that relationship, even if you're starting to date someone, whatever it may be, it must be in a Christ-like fashion, which means it is the sacrifice of self for the sake of other. Now, this is what will lead, and only if both husband and wife are doing so, this is the mode that will lead to a healthy, happy, beautiful, successful, Christ-like marriage. And if you want that, you got to give yourself to it. Both of you, husbands and wives, have to be completely sacrificial of self for the sake of other at the same time and all the time. If there's ever any little gap in that, trouble is going to follow. Now, let me say some exciting things. I'm going to drop a seed. We are working as Warrior Saints on a new program. a new updated version of the Way of the Warrior Saint. It's not there yet. It's coming. It's going to be awesome. And within that, we will also have one specific class on relationships, love, the heart. We'll also have a sub on marriage itself. Greg's going to lead us in understanding marriage. We'll get there. It's coming. In the meantime, you beautiful people have to remember, and this is just, it's all that we can give you. It's the best we can give you. If you want to have that healthy relationship, if you want to celebrate this Valentine's Day as it's intended to be, not, the historical Valentine's Day, but the way we look at it now, you've got to be crucifixional, sacrificial of yourself for the sake of the other one. If you do it, you won't have good relationships. You'll have great ones. Love you, beautiful people. We'll be back tomorrow where we're going to talk about sin. Till then, as always, keep walking on the way of the Warrior Saint.